Hello friends, I'm Tina Hardt coming to you almost live from our Three Weird Sisters pub in Musselman's Lake. Welcome to the BFF Files. So for centuries, sitters have been asking about love and romance and marriage and baby carriages. And you know, we call these our bread and butter readings because they keep on the lights and the hydro, right? But lately there's a new kind of soulful reading that's been coming to my table. One of the most precious liaisons and important liaisons that we get to form in our life is with friends. They sometimes know us longer and better than our romantic partners. And if any of you have gone through any sort of a breakup or breakdown with a BFF or a kindred, you know how heart-rending and dysfunctional that can be. So more and more sitters, I find, have been coming to me to work out misunderstandings and miscommunications. They're processing cruel issues like ghosting and social media dysfunction, or trying to understand why suddenly a tight bond unraveled without any sort of explanation or a chance to resolve these issues. So that's why I've designed a tableau style layout that you can put into service for yourself or for a sitter. The goal of this approach will be to gain a clear perspective on both sides of a narrative. You're going to be able to pick up on intentions and motivations or innate differences and hardwiring or even core ideals. You know, sometimes souls just grow apart and they can't explain because they really don't have the answers themselves or the self-awareness. And that can leave, you know, a person in a terrible state without any closure and those much needed answers. So you'll be reading for both parties, and then you'll be checking the pulse of the friendship itself. Is there space to grow, evolve, to work things out? You know, will it take an act of compassion, forgiveness, or faith that just sometimes shit happens and there it is and it's all perfect? This spread will allow you to do a deep dive into the dynamic of conflict and emerge with those much needed answers that can provide closure and help someone process loss and restore their self-worth and hope. So with review, reflection, or even journaling, it will become clear whether or not this is a friend for life, a reason, or a season. That's the million-dollar question. Now let's throw some Lenny at it. Before we get into the nitty-gritty of the layout and of course our sample reading, let's just take a look at some of the cards through a fun filter. The traditional core meanings of the cards will still apply, they'll be the same, but these are just a couple of extra tweaked layers and additional facets that might be helpful when interpreting your stories. Okay, let's start with the number one, the obvious one, the dog. The dog is loyal, faithful, trustworthy, friend. This friend has your back. Good doggy. Now we have the mountain and the snake, a dastardly duo, and the antithesis of that dog energy. Cold and feeling, the mountain can be a formidable enemy or opposition, and the snake a cold-blooded liar, a nasty piece of work. You know what they say with friends like these, who needs enemies? The fox, me, me, me. It's all about me. Self-preservation and self-absorption as a coping mechanism. This is a harbinger of wrongness, wrongdoing, and the wrong remains the same. Tree. This is a friend with whom you've weathered many storms. Long-standing, long-suffering. The intention is to keep going, to strive, to thrive, and survive, even if they bore you to death. The mice. The birds and the bear. The mice, the birds, and the bear. These are they can be annoying for their own special reasons cluster. Mice, these little bastards can reduce you to a frazzle. Maybe they're always late, needy, hot mess, hella mess. You're always in the wake of a category 5 shitstorm. Look out if this card drops if you're divining about a potential roommate. You'll want to see what they're thieving. Patience, cleanliness, nerves, pocket money. Birds, exhaustive, frenetic, talk, squawk, verbal incontinence. Little annoying things that add up. Gossip in our social circles, and certainly in the times of Lenormand, was a currency. It bought you friendship. It bought you belonging. Are you bonding through idle chatter and unkind chatter? If someone is talking smack behind your back, rest assured they could be saying the same about you. Bear. Well aspected, we all know that bear can be an ally, a protector, or an expert, depending on where and how it presents. It could also be our card of jealousy, or it could herald a power play. And it always says just to watch and protect what's yours. Now we have the stars, the sun, and lily. Stars, this is the space within which healing, recovery, and evolution past an existing issue can occur. It's all possible. The sun is confident, assertive. It says it's all good. I'm invested. The lily brings the energy of maturity, forgiveness, aging gracefully, and good intentions when it's sitting above a significator. If it's anywhere on the bottom, even in this small spread, I'm going to look to see what's smushing it. The rider and the lily say potentially booty call. Now when I see rider and lily, I think, woo, a florist. Okay, the letter. It's communication, written or verbalized. I pay particular attention to when I don't see this in a spread, because what that indicates to me is that they're not talking through their situation and their issues. I think, why is this? And I look around for other clues. Ooh, the coffin and the scythe. The coffin, adding to its already dreadful and appalling other meanings, depression, an illness that requires bed rest, something compartmentalized or buried like feelings or impulses. This is my card for that cruel behavior referred to as ghosting. Unfriending, blocking, detaching, severing all communication without explanation or warning. In time, the universe willing, this pole can lift. Scythe, on the other hand, says, "Good night, Irene. It's all over but the crying. It's all she wrote. La comédie est finito." The friendship is sadly over irrevocably. Okay, house. Now this is an interesting one. This is how essentially house is showing up for me, and I'm just going to share this, but play it by ear in your own readings. So the love cluster, which we know as heart, ring, and anchor, all show good things: emotion, love, commitment, and stability. But the house has given me this additional layer. Because it also signifies our private life and stability, it carries a lot of those "you're my person" vibes. You know my innermost secrets. It brings to mind that poem by W.H. Auden. He was my north, my south, my east, my west, my working week, my Sunday rest. And then when ill aspected, the rest of that stanza. My noon, my midnight, my talk, my song. I thought that love would last forever. I was wrong. No more poetry. Now let's look at the layout. All right, for this reading, I used two decks. One for the primary main significator and the other for the secondary significator. There's a whole world of insight made available by separate squares that contain duplicate cards. It actually can show you commonality, and it can show you the potential for strong agreement and disagreement between friends, and a whole lot more. I personally prefer using two of the same kind of deck because when it's all laid out, it's just so much easier on the eyes and brain. And this actually frees up psychic bandwidth, which helps when you're doing your interpretive work. But of course, if you don't want to get a duplicate deck and you've got better eyes and a brain than I do, then, use what you have. Just try to make sure that they're similar so it's not too jarring. All right, this BFF layout features 3 squares of 9s. It's been designed to give you a snapshot of a significant event or situation and the interaction or residual energy and emotion between two friends. It'll first allow you to examine on the left your sitter's experience and perspective, then on the right, what the sitter needs to know about the other party's viewpoint or standpoint. See how we did that? We're not prying into an unconsenting person's business. Then, after we read these cards, we get to do something cool. So just hang on. Okay, here we go. Shuffle both decks. Place your primary deck to the left and the secondary to the right. Are you doing that? Good. We begin on the left by pulling a classic square of 9 or a portrait or a box spread. You're going to lay them out face down, left to right, in 3 rows, counting 1 to 9 consecutively. Good. Now pull 3 more additional cards from that same deck, counting 1, 2, 3, and place them face down in a column from top to bottom. They're just going to sit there for the time being, so leave them alone. Note, these additional 3 cards are coming out of your sitter's deck because it's their reading. Okay, now push this deck to the side when you're finished because you're done with it. Pick up the other deck, and on the far right, lay out a second square of 9 for your secondary significator. Remember, leave those middle column of cards alone, face down. Don't touch. Don't you dare touch them. Now, before we do a sample reading together, here are a few technical notes just about the method. First, we're going to read the sitter square. We said that. Then we read the other party's cards. When that's done, we're going to take the innermost columns of your 2 squares of 9 and push them into the center where they're going to be flanking the 3 face down cards. When these middle cards are eventually overturned, this is going to form your 3rd square of 9. The intention for this middle layout is to reveal the current state and well-being of the friendship. It's the 3rd energy, the alchemical reaction produced by the actions of both parties. At this stage, you can synthesize all of this insight and hopefully, universe willing, get your friends to kiss and make up. I set the intention to read these squares in the traditional way with only a few tweaks. For example, one of the things I love about Lenormand is that there are no court cards. I don't have to sit under an olive tree and contemplate whether or not a king, queen, knight, or page are people, psychology, astrology, arcane, insane. I have a main and secondary significator, man and lady, done and done. However, as it turns out, this is also what I'm not so thrilled about because sometimes I really wish I had more people cards. You could ostensibly charge other cards with this responsibility, but why would you want to take them out of service? They play key roles, they have key functions. So this is what I do. In this BFF spread, your people are understood, right? You're reading for your sitter and a friend. So this automatically frees up man and lady to become other people. I also set the intention that card number 1 be my significator position, my significator card. I ask this card to show me how or what my sitter wants to express within the context of this experience. So even if you pull the man or the lady card here in this position, guess what? It's still another person. Card number 5. This is the core or heart of the perception of the experience. I call this the hotspot. This is the key information that's en route to card number 9, the outcome or finale, or as my grandfather used to say, Amen, the last word in the prayer. And card number 7, this is my Harry Potter card. I'm sure you've all seen at least one Harry Potter movie. Remember they hid him away in that little tiny room under the stairs? I thank Lisa Young Sutton for opening my eyes to this position in the square of 9. Energy flows from left to right, top to bottom, so that number 7 card reminds me of that hidden nook and cranny. The Harry Potter card wants more awareness, attention, and consideration. It's a clue, it's charged. Okay, let's get stuck in. This is a sample client reading that I did. I didn't want to know too much. All I allowed my sitter to tell me was that she'd had a falling out with a good friend, and this happened when she introduced her new man. I didn't even want to know where they currently were with one another because I didn't want this to color my interpretation. So scry along with me, and you may see and read things that I'm either missing or skipping over, and you can always DM me on Facebook with your brilliant observations or any questions. I'd really love that. All right off the hop, we see that my sitter expresses as the cross that mirrors a snake. And looky, her friend is in the hot seat here, right in the center. Reading the corners to get a very basic sort of frame of reference, we see cross mirroring snake, a betrayal causes hardship and despair, key mirrors man, so a man's key here, and he's connected to some sort of solution or opportunity. The first thing that screams out at me is that cross knights to coffin, and this is grief and loss, oh my gosh, and coffin knights to key. So she's found a solution to her grief. Man sits in the room under the stairs. I feel initially this was who had passed away. Reading my sitter's sightline, cross leads to stork and key. My sitter was moving away from her grief and had found the solution, which was this new man. Now, as you know, every card has multiple facets and layers that when they touch other cards and in combinations, these facets get highlighted. So this happened with the man card. On my second pass through the cards, man shifted energetically for me, so he now felt like a different man. There were 2 distinct storylines here. 1, she had lost someone, and 2, she had finally found someone. She found a solution to her grief, and both were represented by the man card. Her friend touches the dark side of the mountain, big opposition. And the sitter's lasting impression of this friendship, remember she expresses as the cross, is the snake, a profound, acutely felt betrayal, unexpected attack potentially. What could it have been? So let's see. She touches snake, mountain, coffin. Snake knights to the moon. Cross is stabbing the moon, which reflects down on the man. Sure looks like her friend scrutinized this new man and somehow found him lacking at a very vulnerable time for our sitter. My sitter confirmed that she'd been suffering grief for years following the passing of her former partner. She'd just met a new man and now was happy for the first time. Instead of supporting her newfound joy, her friend turned cold and was unapologetically rude to him without any provocation or explanation. Now, let's see her friend's side of the story. Where's she at? Well, lo and behold, looky here. Do you see how easily things can get derailed when the individual perceptions of an occurrence are so different? And are you learning and leaning into how useful this number one significator position can be for making an immediate connection between the two parties and how they're seeing things? So the first thing you may want to do here for the second square is to just softly scan it, first of all, to see what your sitter needs to know about how this person is expressing. You're looking for duplicate cards or uncannily similar positioning. You want to see if your sitter's number one card also presented. You also want to look for what's not there. In the number two square, so again, I mirror the corner cards that go through the hotspot to establish a basic framework. Dog, stars, a loyal friend with an enlightened perspective. Book, bouquet, secrecy surrounding a surprise, romance, or, here's the kicker, something or someone pleasant and flowery. I think that should have been a spoiler alert. You can't help but notice man-lady cards here, even if you don't read directionally, which I don't. This isn't lost on me. First of all, there's a duplication of man, and look at the intensity and closeness of the directionality between them. Also note, the stork has fallen in the exact same location and over the lady in each spread. So the friend is in the hotspot of my sitter's spread, and my sitter is in the hotspot of her friend's spread, and both have the stork above their heads. Go figure. This seems to suggest they have strong yet individual opinions of what transpired, and it gives us a big clue as to how both of them are planning to move forward after this event. The silver lining is that the friend, didn't express his snake. That's good. Dog sits in that number one position, so it wasn't malicious. Her intentions were good. However, dog knights to clouds. So what's that expression? The path to hell is paved with good intentions? And it would seem that her friend's way of adapting to this new love story was to become a closed book. Instead of talking it out, no letter card, she chose to clam up, detach, book-touching lady in coffin, and assume that she had an enlightened perspective, stars, on this new coupling. Man actually lands between dog and lady. Lady sits over clouds. Her friend figured that she was being bamboozled by this new intimacy. Two suspiciously sugary sweet bouquet clouds, and that she was moving stork towards the revelation of secrets about him. Book knighting man that would ultimately lead to coffin, a painful ending, and more grief. And see that cloud stars combination? This romance bouquet would end coffin over stars and yet another misfortune in a series of disasters. Remember, we always read in layers. So even though that number one position represents your significators in this BFF spread, also read normally and traditionally. Read it as the top card in that first column. Now this is going to give us some insight into this new man and why the friend may have had such strong opposition to him. So, dog, loyal, and man, her new beau, is bouquet, pleasant, maybe flowery and romantic. He may have soft yin attributes. This man and the closeness of their bond probably arrived as an unpleasant surprise. Dog knights to clouds, which touches bouquet. She clearly thinks this hookup can't last. Man, lady, coffin, or wishes it can't last. In the name of loyalty, it looks like she made a superficial judgment of the man. I say superficial because bouquet, his pleasant giving nature, is passing through clouds. Knights to dog, so also her own confusion and issues, and is now arriving at some kind of divine lunacy and prediction with these tainted stars. And you know, you really want to see the Celestial Stars card above and not under the coffin, just saying. My client confirmed that her friend knew her ex-partner really, really well. While both guys are great, they have very different looks and personality. This new man is sensitive, kind, slightly theatrical in his mannerisms, which brought out the predatory and judgy behavior in this friend and her husband. And then in social situations where they were ignoring him or being unkind, he tried too hard, which made it worse. It left my sitter resentful because her relationship is very strong and close in the moment. And with all the best and misguided intentions, her friend was really questioning my sitter's judgment and ability to choose her own next life partner. Okay, here's our third square. Remember, we took the innermost columns, pushed them towards the center, and turned over the middle 3 cards. Now, this square will tell us what the friendship will look like moving forward. Personify this friendship. Give it a voice. Let it tell you what it wants and needs from both parties for its own well-being. I'm not going to take as long with this one because we're running out of time, but I'm really eager to hear about all your insight and brilliant deductions. Okay, quick scan. There are 2 bouquets. And another stars card has appeared. Soft gazing these cards, from the absence of scythe, coffin, or whip, we can say that there's been no dramatic severing or strained conflict. And from the absence of ring, heart, and anchor, it's not exactly in tip-top BFF shape, but they're still friends, in contact, or friendly. The man is also still in the mix, and there's still residual resentment and a lingering complication that arrives because of the innate and potentially unpredictable nature of the friend, dog mirroring snake. But with the key in the number 1 position, they're actively working on some kind of solution. The stars in that hot spot seems to say a new, more hopeful direction is possible. Bouquet stars clover says there's progress, and they'll be in a better space if they can just clover, seize those carpe diem impromptu moments to be together, exchange niceties, compliments, and keep it light and short. And this is happening because my sitter will get a call and they'll go out running together, and it's like, you know, wow, you look awesome, and oh man, I love your shoes. So now the 2 bouquet cards and key knighting to clover tells me that this friendship is a lot more superficial and surface than it once was. I always think about flowers too. They're sort of funereal, and remember what their purpose was. And I know that that's not how we read Lenormand, but the overwhelming fragrance of 2 bouquet cards in this small square of 9 spreads makes me think that it's masking, right? But that's still better than malicious intent. So anyway, my sitter still worries about attending social functions where her partner could encounter their judgy and rude treatment. So whenever there's an invite to something, for example, instead of a warm, heartfelt welcoming, she'll get a, oh, and he can come too. So the presence of that cold mountain sidling up to that snake has gotten a little better, but it won't be tickety-boo until they accept her man too. I know, I promised you no more poetry. Well, my friends, thank you for hanging out with me today. I love you, I'm thankful for you, and I wish you joy through this glorious 2024 Lenormand Summit. That's, I just screwed up the end. I screwed up the ending. Right, when I get to the end, I screw it up. All I need to say is that it's a ciao for now from Tina Hardt.